years ago that it wasn't bringing me any joy anymore. And we shouldn't live this life without joy.
Yes.
So I asked myself the question about my work and life, what brings me joy? And it boiled down to this: helping other people discover their visions for life and business, and then giving them ways to achieve it.
Wow.
That's it. That's all I'm here for.
And I guess you went for early retirement.
That's very kind of you to say. Yes, I did go for early retirement.
Because it's not easy for people to do that, isn't
No,
it? Because people are caught up in the web of career, isn't it?
Completely. And I was able to step away from that and look, and it's okay. And because I decided that something else was driving my life, and it wasn't being an academic anymore, it was very freeing, really freeing. So the rest of it was just engineering the right kind of exit. So I was very lucky. I was able to take early retirement, and the day after I took retirement, we'd paid off our mortgage.
Wow.
So which meant that I didn't have to fight and fight and fight. So it's allowed me to take 2 years to get where I am now, which is...
I think your transition of planning to exit your career, and now 2 years, the path that you've taken, the challenges of that transition and where you are, I think it can be another topic for discussion.
Completely.
Because a lot of people have careers, but they don't know how to make that exit, planning to make that exit, exiting and taking on that path they really want to be. Yes. And you are a typical example that your experience can be brought to the table to help people to make that informed decision. So I think for that it's going to be another topic for discussion, because there's a lot of people who are in careers that really want to exit, but one, they are afraid, second, they don't know what the future holds for them, so they get stuck and they just stay at one place for the rest of their lives, but though they are still not happy.
So I took the view that, was it a midlife crisis? Could be,
yeah.
Which would be definitely a downward way of looking at the world. Or was it a midlife opportunity? And I just said to myself, well, is that all I am? Am I defined by the fact that I've done 30 years as a university academic? No, it was just one life path that I could have chosen from many. And it's also a thing about what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind
Exactly.
you? And I knew I'd got something else to leave behind.
Exactly.
And that's why we're in the room talking to each other.
Exactly. Now, we always start this program with the inspirational quote of the day. And today our inspirational quote of the day is by David Frost. And what did he say? He says, don't aim for success if you want it. Just do what you love and believe in, and it will come naturally. Do you agree with him?
It's almost as if you've written my thoughts. Something my late father said to me, and I may have shared this with you before, but he said to me, Gary, remember, this life is not a rehearsal. So if you live your life as if the main event is going to be somewhere always in the future, you don't actually focus in the moment.
Yes.
And the only time you can influence anything and do anything is right here, right now. So I'm absolutely behind that quote.
Wow. So you have to live in the moment.
Completely.
But people just live in the future.
Yes. Or the past.
Or the past, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one thing I'd like to say to you and Frank, who's here with us, and all the listeners and people maybe watching on Facebook, in this moment, you are the most important people in my life.
Wow.
Because you're the ones here.
Yes.
In the next moment, after we've finished, other people will become the most important person in my life.
Yes.
And that, of course, will be my daughter and my wife, Mel and Phoebe.
Wow.
And if you live your life that way, it allows you to really, really focus on the things that matter.
Powerful. Now, when you look at our topic for discussion, it says the heart, head, and gut pathway to success. Now, before even we go about the heart, the head, and the gut pathway to success, what is success?
Brilliant question. And I bet every person has their own view of what success means to them. So I work now in the business world, and many of them consider profit as a success, which is fine. Other people might think measures of clinical excellence, doctors, for example, or nurses, that's also fine. Every person's view is different about success. And what I'd like to do is share with you a couple of stories, because I think stories are really powerful. You know, I could describe all sorts of things and ways of doing things, but real live stories are best. Now, if you watched the news this last week, you'll have seen the Brownlee brothers.
Yes.
Alistair and Johnny Brownlee.
Very interesting.
And for those people who haven't seen it, I'll set the scene. So the Brownlee brothers are triathletes. These are people that swim in open water, cycle for, I think it's 60 kilometres, and then do a 10-kilometre run with non-stop. And Alistair, the older brother, is the Olympic gold medalist at Rio. And his younger brother won the silver medal. Now, last week was the last round of the World Championships, and the younger brother, Johnny, required to win that race to become world champion. Everything's going well, he's in the lead, he's really cracking on, but suddenly his legs start to give way and he's exhausted and he's wobbling all over the road. And then you see this vision of Alistair, his elder brother, with a South African athlete on his shoulder, second and third. And as they approach, the South African runs past, as you would expect any runner to do, that's fine. What does the elder brother Alistair do? But stop.
Yes.
Puts his brother's arm round him and virtually carries him for the next half kilometre and cross the line together.
Yes.
So who was most successful? The South African runner who won, or the two brothers? Because in 20 years' time, maybe we won't know who the South African is.
Yes.
I hope we do, but we might not. We're never going to forget the love of the two brothers. So this is what we call unforeseen success.
But that's a different twist to the definition of success.
It is, because we set out thinking what success looks like.
So it's not about always aiming at the crown. It's about what encompasses throughout the journey.
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
I agree completely. It might be that we get the crown, and that's success. But in the journey, we might realise that there are other ways we can succeed. Now, I'd like to contrast that very, very public journey to success with a very private journey to success. I'd like to introduce you to my late father-in-law, Roy Stock. That's my... he was an interesting man, let's say. When I met him, he'd already had a stroke, and he had a difficulty because he could only use one hand particularly well. So one day, I'm in their living room, and he's in the kitchen, and there's just the two of us. And I hear a whoop of joy, let's say. And I went into the kitchen, and his success was measured by the fact that they discovered a way to open a jar of jam with one hand.
Wow.
He was quite a successful guy, an engineer and in business before then. But in that moment, his success was a one-handed method to open a jar of jam.
Oh, yes, yes.
So when we're carrying on our talk, a conversation, I'd like people to think, well, there are high, big public successes, but there are also small, very personal, very private successes. And we have to learn to recognise both of them. Because if we can't recognise the small stuff when it happens, how are we going to recognise the big stuff?
Yes. So do you mean, do people really celebrate success along the journey of success? Or do people wait until they get the crown to really celebrate success?
We're kind of trained to do the second thing. you know, you can only feel joy when you've got your GCSE results and they're all A's and A stars.
Yes.
You can only do it when you get your degree. You can only do it when you pass your driving test. We are.
But do people celebrate their mock exams?
They don't. No, they don't celebrate the mock exams.
But are they supposed to?
Yes.
So why don't they do?
Because we train it out of them. Watch a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Baby that's learning to walk, it doesn't know the rules. You don't teach babies to walk. They discover it themselves.
Yes.
And when they discover it, you see a joy on their face.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to have been rewarding themselves with something internally, otherwise they wouldn't show it on their face. So we then learn how not to embrace small successes by saying well done to ourselves. We are supposed to wait until some imaginary
Yes.
goal line, and then we're allowed to do it,
Exactly.
but only briefly.
Exactly.
And of course, in Britain, we're very good at not celebrating success, except the big ones.
Except the big ones, yes. Yes, that's really interesting, and I think that's what people need to understand.
Yeah.
As you are saying, that they need to celebrate success
Yes.
every step of the way.
And we don't actually help people understand how to recognise when something good's happened. We're very external people, in particular. Again, I can only speak for people in Britain, this particular culture. We wait for people to tell us that we've succeeded. So I'd like to share another brief story, if I may, if we have time. Take 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So last year I volunteered to be an unpaid mentor for the Young Enterprise scheme, which if anybody's out there and can get involved, runs a small business, find out about Young Enterprise, because you can give back to community.
Yeah.
So I ended up at Kingston University in a room with about 150 students, business students, and there were 25 mentors, and it was a bit like speed dating between mentors and groups. And I ended up sat in with a group of 7 students, and the guy next to me, I asked him, so why are you here? And he said, well, I'm halfway through my 2nd year here. Within a year of graduating, I will have made £1 million.
Wow.
Absolutely fabulous. Got no problem with that at all. You know, that was his goal. So I took a look at him, and he had an absolutely beautiful Armani suit on. His hair was immaculate. His fingernails were manicured. And he was wearing Gucci shoes.
Wow.
Yeah. All playing the role. It admirable. You know, it's all power posing and so on. So I said to him, okay, I am going to give you right here, right now, £1 million in £50 notes, all wrapped up in a package. I'm going to put it on the table in front of you. And he looked at me very strangely, as you would. I said, but there's one condition. It's yours, you own it, but you cannot touch it and you cannot spend it. He looked at me even more strangely. And he said, well, what's happening? I said, no, you're a millionaire. Right now, you don't have to wait 2 years. But you can't spend it. So money in itself is meaningless. I mean, if you look on a £5 note, it basically says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of £5. What's a pound? So then I said to him, okay, I will let you have your £1 million and you can spend it. What would you like to spend it on? And he said, I want a Ferrari. And I forget which particular model he said, but I said to him, you haven't got enough to buy it. £1 million won't do it, but you can have one that's, 900,000. I'll put it in a garage, it's yours, there's a glass wall so you can see it, but you can never drive it. I'm getting even stranger looks, and his friends around the table are getting very interested. So I said to him, okay, I give in. You can drive it. I will pay for you to take your Ferrari to Brands Hatch, and you can drive it as fast as you like. And his face lit up and he smiled, and I said, with one condition. you must be able to tell me right here, right now, what you will feel in your body as you're driving. Because that's the only way we actually know that something good has happened. We physically sense it. You know,
Yes.
that adrenaline rush you get, the goosebumps. If you begin to recognise that on the small stuff, you will actually be able to celebrate the big stuff.
Wow.
So that's my story of how you know when you've succeeded.
Yes. Now, do you believe emotions play an important role in our journey of success?
Yes, completely. And the reason is that if you actually ask somebody to make a decision, they'll think and think and think and think, and then they'll take a gut decision. Brexit, you know, many people on both sides, that in the end was a gut emotional feeling. That it's almost too big to make an objective analysis of. So you go with your gut, which is driven by emotions. So I'll give you an example of absolutely how emotion controls our decisions, and our decisions drive the pathway to success, either for or against. So there's a story of a CEO of a Wall Street financial company, a real go-getter, hard-hitting, can make decisions within split seconds that mean $1 billion win or lose. Very successful. He went for his annual checkup, and it was found that he had what turned out to be a benign tumour in his brain. So he went for the surgery. Surgery was perfect. There was no lasting physical consequences. But if I tell you that within 2 years that man was living on the streets, divorced, with his children abandoning him.
Getting interested.
And it turns out that the tumour was in a position of the brain which integrates emotions with decision making. He could analyse the hell out of a spreadsheet. He experienced his emotions, he got angry, he felt angry, but he did not know what to do with those emotions. So it tells you that our ability to integrate our emotion with our objective thinking, our executive functions they call it, emotion is the final arbiter of decisions. And he was unable to make any decision thereafter. He couldn't even decide what Subway sandwich to have.
So let me ask this, right? When I'm pursuing my dream and I face a challenge, right? The first thing that comes is my emotional sentiments towards the challenge.
Yes, and yourself.
Yes. So, but most of the time, the emotions are skewed to the negative aspect of our emotional life.
Yep.
Why is that the case?
Why is that the case? So, when you have your negative view on life, I know what happens to me. I hear a voice in my head.
Everyone does.
And if you really pay attention, you might find that the voice says, you should, you must, you were never good at this, so why are you trying?
But why is that the negative is the loudest?
It's because it comes from, well, who used to try and protect you by telling you early on in your life, oh, you shouldn't put your hand near the fire? Who was that?
Your parents, isn't it?
The parents. Absolutely well-meaning, but very powerful influences. Siblings, friends, teachers, bosses. And our mind isn't capable of keeping all these voices separate. So it produces one synthesis, one coalesced version of it. I call mine the judge. And the judge keeps saying to me, do you really think you're good enough to come on this radio show and share what you have with people?
Do you think you know? What have you got to offer?
And they call it the imposter syndrome. And everybody has it. But some people really listen to their judge far too much. Others don't listen to it at all, so they take very high risks. And the best path is somewhere in between. It's like having a well-meaning friend on your shoulder who's always warning you of the danger, but you don't have to do what they say. So when you have powerful emotions, just accept them, that nature gave them to you for a very good reason, and we learn to listen to them.
Wow. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. I think we'll go to the next question, then we'll go for a commercial break, right?
Okay.
Yes. What is your personal view on success? Because a lot of people have got different definitions, different opinions, what success means, and I have got mine. What is your personal opinion on success?
When I was 11, it was passing my 11 plus, then going to a grammar school. So I succeeded. Okay, and there's a whole current argument about whether we should have grammar schools, but hey, I was lucky on the day I did.
Yeah.
So that was my view of success. At 14, 15, I was on the trajectory to become a professional football player until I broke my leg twice.
Wow.
So my view of success changed overnight. Then it was, can I kiss a girl? Yeah? That's a view of success.
Yes.
So we'll rapidly go forward through the undergraduate years and so on and so forth. And then I thought, well, I find my life partner, which I did 35 years ago, and we're still together. So that's a view of success.
Yes.
When I became an academic, I was measured by the number of research papers I published and the number of grant applications which were funded. So that was my external measure of success. My internal measure of success was, who did I help? Because I get a lot of joy from seeing joy in other people's faces.
Yes.
So I now like to introduce or reintroduce my father, Harry Coulton. Now Harry probably didn't achieve the traditional things and trappings of success. He was a very, very competent engineer. I realised he was a genius about a month before he died. And he died in a particularly unpleasant way, and he knew he was going to die. And we had this long conversation. And at that time he said to me about this life not being a rehearsal. I just thought that meant work harder. What a dummy, eh? Then he said to me, Gary, who do you want to come to your funeral? Well,
He was asking you that question, and he knew he was going to die.
He got limited time.
Wow.
And then he asked me something I called my benign brainworm. So he's asked me, who do you want to come to your funeral? And what was it you did for them that would make them want to come to your funeral? I'll say that again. What was it you did for them that would make them want to come to your funeral? So, if you deconstruct that last bit, I'm going to be dead. When I'm dead, I can't care who's at my funeral.
Yes.
My wife might, if she outlives me, and my family, as a recognition somehow. But I don't care. What was it I did for them that would make them want to? Want being the operative word. So it brings us back to that thing that we discussed right at the beginning. You can only do something now.
Yes.
So what he was saying was, pay more attention to the moment.
To the moment.
And that's how I measure my success. So my success now is having a fantastic conversation with you.
So you booked the date. We booked the date for you to come today to the studio to come and talk about this fantastic topic.
Yeah.
And after 2 hours, it means you have achieved that goal. And that to you is success.
That to me is success. Whether or not anybody believes what I say, runs with it, it's the desire that somebody might want to.
Okay.
And you can transfer this to other scenarios. It doesn't have to be as dark as your own funeral. let's say you hold a party.
Mm-hmm.
What was it you did for people that would make them want to turn up to your party?
Yes.
If you are presenting a radio show,
Yeah.
what was it you did for your listeners that would make them want to tune in again?
It's like the seminar I'm starting on the 1st of October.
Yes.
What have I impacted in people's life for them to say, come on, I want to come and listen more, isn't it?
Yes. And what I can say to your listeners is, the Oscar I know is completely authentic. He does what he says, and he's not for his own ends.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you can come to this event that he was announcing, do so, because you will only benefit.
Yes, exactly.
So, in that way, you're doing something for someone who wants, therefore, to change their life.
And even it's a free seminar as well.
Yeah. So, then you can say, what about the chief executive of a company?
Mm-hmm.
What is it they do for their customers and their staff that will leave an echo, a positive echo, when they leave the company?
Mm-hmm.
And can they leave the company with almost no ripple of disquiet? If that can happen, then they will have addressed my father's question, which is the most genius question I've ever been asked in my life.
That's really sound powerful and interesting. Really powerful and interesting. And I think success is something. I think sometimes we judge success from our perspective, isn't it?
Yes.
Not from the perspective of the person that we're talking about.
That's right.
So now somebody like Usain Bolt, everybody will have their own definition of the level of a success.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at somebody like Paul Gascoigne, how are you going to measure his success? Probably he's got his own definition of success, and he sees himself as successful. But people from the outside opinion, what is their definition of success about him?
So, I know we're going into a commercial break very shortly.
Yeah, very shortly.
But you raised Usain Bolt.
Yes.
Why is it he smiles when he races through the line?
Yes.
It's not just because he's won. It's because he's just happy
Yes.
that he's achieved the thing that he wants to achieve. And I watched him being interviewed, and he said, "I don't think about the end. I don't just visualize the winning. What I do is day in, day out, ask myself, are my knees high enough when I come out the blocks? Can I feel the pressure in both feet as the cadence changes from the lift to the main part of the run? And if I get all of those things right, all those feedbacks, those sensations, I'm going to be faster than anybody else." So it goes right back to your opening quote about it's not visualizing the success, it's concentrating on the journey.
Concentrating on a journey. Powerful. I think the first segment has really been interesting, and we're going to go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to